Right. And even if Obama did get his U.S. citizenship restored, that would change his status from natural born to a native born American citizen. And the Constitution is quite specific. Only a natural born citizen can serve as president or vice president of the United States. So with that broken citizenship, this kind of takes this puts the focus really on the citizenship issue and not the birth certificate. Let's say he was born in Hawaii. Even though he was born in Hawaii and was a natural born citizen, the mere fact that he was an Indonesian citizen, U.S. citizenship renounced, and he may not have gotten his U.S. citizenship restored, if ever, legally, after the age of 18. He could have done it. I mean, you can't hold him responsible for the actions of his mother and his stepfather, but he had to declare his U.S. citizenship once again before he reached the age of 18. There's every indication that that was not done, and I think that now puts the focus on who assigned him this fraudulent Social Security number from Connecticut.
Well, we know, Wayne, from day one, he has this meteoric rise. Clearly CIA on both sides of the family.
Yeah.
We've gone over all that in long interviews in the past. But now they've brought out the obviously fake new birth certificate. Then they produced the bin Laden rabbit out of a hat trick. But still, he's got one of the lowest approval ratings, well, the lowest ever recorded this far in, and plunging so fast. What do you think the establishment's planning to do with Barack Obama, who they gave the Peace Prize to, where they did everything for? They were clearly planning on him being a messianic leader to sell us tyranny, but their precious creation has blown up in their face. So what comes next, and what else did you learn on your travels?
Well, I personally, I think Obama's going to get another 4 years. We know that these electronic voting machines are fixed, and so there are methods by which they can ensure that he's going to be reelected. I mean, I would note that the polling here in Virginia shows him tied with the Republican candidate. Well, I mean, Virginia hadn't voted Democratic since 1964 for LBJ until it voted for Obama in 2008. I can tell you that Obama is extremely unpopular here in Virginia, and I don't know how these polls are being conducted or who they're asking, but I think the fix is in. I think he's going to have another 4 years because they're very comfortable with this guy. He's doing everything that they want him to do. I would also note that when I was in Indonesia last year, a movie was produced based on a book, and I'm going to hold it up here. It's called Little Obama. And this book and the movie I discovered was funded by the United States government. It was supposed to come out concurrent with Obama's first state visit to Indonesia, but he canceled 2 visits to Indonesia, so they had to release it without Obama present. But when the movie was first produced, it was screened by the U.S. ambassador and the embassy staff, the CIA's political officer at the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta, and they demanded that 2 scenes be removed from that movie of when Obama was there as a kid. One was his pledge of allegiance to the Indonesian flag, and his singing the national anthem of Indonesia in Indonesian, I would add, and also his praying in a Muslim chapel at the Menteng Elementary School.
Yeah, so this guy is a complete shadow government CIA cutout. And I agree with you, the establishment likes Obama because he'll take all the hatred and blame for them. And we're seeing a lot of cooked and manipulated polls. Or when Ron Paul wins a poll, the Wall Street Journal won't even show his name. MSNBC's done the same thing. The entire system is afraid of Ron Paul. But expanding on that, the war he launched in Libya, where I know you visited, without congressional approval, the super Congress taking the power of the purse and handing it over to the president. We've got Fast and Furious. From your work in the government, NSA, Iran-Contra, all of it, looking at Fast and Furious, tens of thousands of guns into Mexico. We now learned of drug gangs in Chicago, in Tampa, into Honduras. Now it's come out in federal court, confirmed El Paso Times, Chicago Tribune, with the federal document, that these drug kingpins that are getting busted are declaring, we work for ATF and CIA, and the government's coming in and saying it's true, release them. I mean, this is even bigger than Iran-Contra, and it just shows how criminal these people are. What's your view on Fast and Furious?
Well, I think what we're seeing play out here is what we saw during the Bush administration, the implementation of the strategy of tension. These people do not want peace, whether it's in the Middle East or in Mexico or Central America or anywhere, North Africa. They want war because they profit from war. The IMF and World Bank profit from these situations where these governments are overthrown, destabilized, economies are ruined. Look, the people say that George Soros is this great progressive. Look at his background. He's done nothing but short national currencies. He went after the rupiah in Indonesia about 20 years ago. He also went after the Malaysian currency and the Thai currency. The whole
well, he says he's having a good crisis and makes jokes about people starving, and he's anti-gun, anti-family. I mean, if there's something evil out there, he's behind it, and he's also bragging right now that, hey, you're going to have to give a total economic dictatorship to the banks that engineered the collapse of Europe, or we'll have a worldwide depression. I mean, it's so transparent what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, he supposedly controls things from the left, although he's not from the left. And Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch, on the other side, he controls things over there. So what we have are these wealthy super billionaire elites running the show and plunging countries into war and economic disaster just by snapping their fingers
and creating the illusion of a choice between them. So you think Obama will get away with all the power grabs, and then when some new president comes in after him, that'll just continue? I certainly hope you're wrong, Wayne, but this is disgusting. Shifting gears to Libya, I know you've been to Libya. I believe it's repeatedly and somewhat recently, and they keep lying. First it was just loving rebels that were peaceful. Now they admit it's Al-Qaeda. Reuters is saying, oh, God, Al-Qaeda is taking over Libya now. And it's like, but you put them in there. They keep saying Gaddafi's been defeated. Turns out more than half the country's still under his control. I mean, this is the first time that we've seen things become completely Orwellian. It's like NATO and our own government is run by Baghdad Bob, and everything is the opposite of what they say.
Yeah, let me tell you what's next. Apparently, there's been some secret protocols signed between the United States and the NATO countries that helped invade Libya, attack Libya, to establish bases. The U.S. used to have an Air Force base in Libya at Wheelis. It was a B-52 base. That's going, the U.S. is going to go back in there now with military bases. I understand one military base is going to be located very close to the border with Sudan, which has already been broken up into two countries. South Sudan is basically a vassal state of the United States.
So this is the African takeover beachhead.
Yeah, and Algeria still supports Gaddafi, rich in natural gas and some oil, but mostly natural gas. When Algeria basically said, look, we're not going to deal with these rebels, we detect that there's Al-Qaeda amongst them, people that we consider unsavory. There were two terrorist attacks in Algeria directed against Algerian security forces, blamed on Al-Qaeda. I would say the next two dominoes that are going to fall will be northern Sudan, what's left of the country of Sudan after it was broken in two, and Algeria. This isn't over by any stretch. We're probably going to see these Soros-staged, themed marches and revolutions now in Khartoum and Algiers.
And like a dog returning to its vomit, it has the double goody of strategy of tension, wrecking the wealthiest economy, lifting up the rest of Africa, Libya, and then they can come right back in a few years, or maybe even just a few months, they're already talking about it, total contempt for the public, and attack the very Al-Qaeda they put into place if they don't follow the orders just exactly right, or stage a new false flag in Europe or the U.S. and blame it on some cutout, made-up character. My God, I mean, I've studied a lot of spycraft and subterfuge in history, Wayne. I've never seen anything this ridiculously overt, not even in the nasty Soviet tricks they played in the 70s and 80s. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, and it's blatant. It's totally blatant what they're doing here. I mean, Libya, as you said, was one of the, as far as social programs to help the people, one of the most advanced. Now we have something I reported after I was there the last time in May, that black Libyans and black guest workers from other countries in sub-Saharan Africa were being targeted by the rebels. Now we have the mainstream finally coming around. Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, all reporting that black Libyans and black African guest workers have been subjected to beheadings and other the women raped and other terrible human rights abuses. When I first reported that, the mainstream was, oh no. I even asked the United Nations Commissioner for Refugees this question here in Washington. He says, oh, well, we've heard those reports, and I've asked the rebels about that. Ask the rebels, why didn't he do an investigation? This guy is a former socialist prime minister of Portugal. He's right in with that whole globalist European Union crowd.
Well, Wayne, Walter Fauntroy